What is up, all the beautiful people of YouTube? Welcome to Logic Foundations. My name is Travis, and today we're going to start on our journey of learning Java. To start with, we're going to have to download what's called an IDE. What does that stand for? Well, that stands for Integrated Development Environment. What are we going to be using for that? Well, there's a handful of IDEs out there, including Eclipse, including NetBeans, and things like that, but we're going to use what's called Intellij. It's made by a company called JetBrains, and we're going to start by downloading that right now. So first thing we need to do is we need to go out to the web. I use DuckDuckGo, so we're going to say JetBrains. That will pull up this. You should see JetBrains Essential Tools for Software Development. Okay. We're going to go up here to Developer Tools, and over here under IDEs, we're going to say Intellij. We're going to click Download. And depending on what system you're running, if you're running Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, you will see it kind of defaults to whatever system it thinks you're running. I'm on a Mac, so it's defaulted to Mac OS up here. If you're on Windows, click on Windows. If you're on Linux, click on that, and you can download the version you need. We're going to use the community version, and we're going to click download. Okay, so it's downloaded. We're going to come and open it up. Now the install process is very similar on Windows and Mac, but however, the Windows, you will have an installer on Windows. So you'll have to go through and tell it, this is where I want to place it. This is where, I want to put all this. On Mac, on the other hand, all you get is this, because things are sandboxed on a Mac. We're going to click on the icon, and we're going to say drag to. See? So we're going to take it, we're going to drag it to the applications folder. Okay, it's moved over there. You saw the little icon jump. And that means it's installed. So on a Mac, it's very simple. You just drag it over there, and since everything is sandboxed, we're installed. So we're going to close this out real quick. Close that out. We're going to come in here and we're going to find it. Okay, so we're going to say open. So, and since I've had this on here before, it really didn't have to set anything up. It just opened up a project that I've been working on. But we're going to close that project out. Since I already had Java installed on here, or the JDK, which is the Java development kit, that brings in your Java runtime environments and everything like that, it pretty much just set itself up. Now, if you don't have all that, you're going to have to actually install a JDK. Now, to install a JDK, we're going to go out here, and we're going to say JDK download. Okay? So, technically, you can download the latest version of the JDK. I use the standard edition JDK and the version 8. The reason I use the version 8 is because I do a lot of stuff using Java effects as the GUI framework, and it's built into the JDK 8 version. You can use any other version you want, but there's certain things that the later versions have in them that the JDK 8 version doesn't have, and vice versa. The one thing that I use a lot of is the graphical user interface portion or framework called Java Effects. So when we get under here, we're going to say Java. You can see the SE15, the 11, and the 8. For this tutorial, I'm going to download the 8. Under here, we're going to come down, we're going to find, just like we did on the other one, if you're using Linux, one of the distros. If you're using Mac, here you go. If you're using Solaris, which I hardly doubt anyone is, you can download that too. Or Windows x86 or x64. If you're on a newer computer, you're probably an x64 for Windows. Mac, it doesn't matter, they're all 64. So we're going to download that. Now we're going to click download, close this out. Now we're going to go in here and we're going to open up the JDK. And as you can see, we've got the JDK package in here. So we're going to double click that. You're going to get an installer that looks like this. We're going to hit continue. We're going to hit install. We don't care where it's putting it because it's going to put it in the libraries anyway. So we're good to go on that. We're going to hit close. And we're going to move it to trash because I don't want it on the computer anymore. So now, if we open up Intellij, wherever it is, I'm just going to put it down here because we're going to use it a lot. Okay, so to start with, you're going to see this welcome screen. And we're going to create a new project, and what the project we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a hello world, which is your kind of your first project when you're first learning programming. It's just printing basically words to the console. So let's get started with this new project. Okay, to start with, you should be up here in the SDK. We should see 1.8 something. That's the JDK that we're going to use. We're under Java over here, and we're not going to add any libraries or frameworks because we don't need Groovy, we don't need Kotlin, we're just using standard Java libraries. So we're going to hit next. Create project from template. Well, to start with, we're going to actually do this. We're just going to create a command line app, and we're going to hit next. And to start with, I want this actually on my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder on there, and we're going to say hello world. Okay, that's where I want it. That's where I put it. Okay, perfect. And we're going to call this hello world. Okay, we're going to hit finish. And you can see now it's opened up. Here's the actual code of your program. Here's your little project viewer. So over here, if we click under source, you'll see we've got this container, and then we've got our main class. We're going to get into what classes and packages and all this stuff are going forward, but as of right now, we've got our public class main declaration up here, and inside that, we've got our static void main method. Okay, so we've got everything we need to run to make something print out to the console. Now, to start with, how are we going to do that? Well, we need to call different classes and objects and methods to make it do that. So we're going to call something called the system class. Okay, so we're going to say system, and we're going to hit dot. Now we're going to call an out object, and inside that out object, we've got methods that we can use, and we're going to call the print line method. And you can see that's the first one. It's highlighted. We're going to say print line. So print line. Now, if we put parentheses behind that, and we're going to put quotes in there, and at the end of every statement in a Java program, just like the C programming language, because Java is actually based off of the C language, it's a variant of C, we have to put a semicolon behind it. Now, what does a semicolon represent? Semicolon tells the compiler, hey, this is one statement, I'm done with this statement, move on to the next. Now, there are other languages like Python that they've built a compiler so it looks at white space as your next line and things like that. I like using Python, but I think this is a better way of learning because it's a lot easier to understand what the compiler's doing when you actually understand that this is what you had to do back in the day and the compiler's just doing it for you now. Okay, so what do we want to print out to the console? Well, we want to print out hello world, okay? So we've got hello world in here. Now we put it between the quotation marks. The big question is, why put it between the quotes? Well, the quotes tells the compiler, hey, this is a string. So print this out as a string. It's not an integer. It's not a double. It's not a float. It's not a boolean. It's a string, which is a data type in Java. And we're going to get into that in the next tutorial when we get into variables. If we want to run this, we can come up here to the run main. You can see that it's all set up for us. Another way you can do it is if you just right click anywhere in here and hit run, and then it will say main because that's the name of our class. So if the class was called tan monkey butts, it would say run tan monkey butts. So we're going to say run main. It's going to compile it, it's going to build the project out, and then you can see under here we've got our console that came up. and it says hello world, just like we wanted it to print out here. It exited with a code 0. We'll get into all that. But for the time being, don't worry about any of that. As long as you got an actual output and not an error, the program was written correctly, and the JDK and the Java runtime environment are all set up correctly, and you're ready to go. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope this gives you a real good understanding of how to set up and use an IDE and the Java runtime environment. And in the next video, we're going to get into variables, and we're going to get into objects and loops and if statements and decision making. And this whole course, we're going to go over all kinds of stuff in the Java programming language, including graphical user interfaces. We're going to get information from a user. We're going to give back information to users. We're going to go through all of this stuff, and I hope you guys will come along for the journey. Once again, I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video.